Welcome to Managing Cybersecurity for Older Family Members. I'm Kai Daly. I'm the Program Manager at 501 Secure in Spokane, Washington, and thank you for joining me today. 501 Secure is a nonprofit team of cybersecurity experts devoted to helping our fellow nonprofits and our community members stay safe online. We are a program of the Ragland Institute located in Spokane, Washington. We offer free events like this one to the public and free trainings for nonprofit teams. We also help nonprofits establish cybersecurity and awareness programs to assist them in identifying and managing online risk. 501 Secure is pleased to offer this presentation today in conjunction with the National Cybersecurity Alliance, a nonprofit on a mission to educate everyone on how to stay safe from cybercrime, scams, and fraud. They are the founders of Cybersecurity Awareness Month every October. They have educational resources on cybersecurity, fraud, and scams for people of all ages and for small businesses. Their work supports our work, and we really love what they do. You can learn more about them at staysafeonline.org. Back in the fall of 2024, 501 Secure conducted a focus group with the National Cybersecurity Alliance to learn more about older adults' experiences with navigating cybersecurity and their experiences with helping others. So it is an exciting for us today to share the results of NCA's research and our small contribution to their project in this presentation. The presentation is designed to be given in person to an audience of older adults. We've modified it for an online presentation and for those who are supporting older family members. So you'll get the flavor of the approach on how to speak with older loved ones, but I'm also going to share additional details relevant for those of you in a support role. My goal today is to guide you through the most important things you need to know to help loved ones stay safe from scams and cybercrime. Research by the National Cybersecurity Alliance shows that people find cybersecurity advice to be confusing, intimidating, and even scary. Today, we'll cut through that and simplify the advice in language that everyone can comprehend. The goal is for you to leave here with some actions that you can take right away. The most important things we'll cover today are securing accounts with strong passwords and multi-factor authentication. So that's basically what the bank makes you do when you log in. You have your password and then a code that gets sent to your email or texted to you, for example. Watching out for all kinds of scams, how to avoid them, how to spot them, what to do if you get snarled in one. Keeping devices up to date and protected, and some ideas and tools for providing support at a distance. You don't need to be a computer nerd to be safe online. With a bit of guidance and good habits, anyone can do this, and everyone online should do this. Why did the National Cybersecurity Alliance choose the theme then and now? Well, back in the day, if someone broke into your home, you could see the damage. But cybercrime often happens invisibly. Malware, which is harmful software, can slip into your computer without a sound or a sign. You might not even know that anything is wrong until months or even years later, when your money or personal information has already been stolen. Older adults are often targets. The FBI reports that Americans over the age of 60 are the most frequently targeted group, and they lose the most money. The FTC estimates that while $2.4 billion was the reported losses by seniors last year, the actual unreported losses could be as high as $81 billion. Most experts agree that the real number is much higher because most people don't report what happens to them. There's victim blaming, there's a lot of shame, and many people never even tell their closest family, let alone law enforcement. Scams of people of all ages were a $1 trillion global business in 2024. So if it's happened to you, you're not alone. By the time we're done with this session, you'll have the tools and peace of mind that you can use to help your loved ones enjoy the internet safely. It's amazing how we can communicate with people like never before. You can call your grandniece in France without paying $1 a minute like you used to have to do in the 80s and 90s. You can be lazy and text your husband in the next room. You can email an old college roommate photos of your grandchildren. Unfortunately, all the things that we like about modern communications are also the things that criminals like about modern communications, which is that it's cheap and it's easy. I have a question for you. Can you think of some examples of scammy texts that you've gotten lately? One that comes to mind for me is, I left my shoes in your car. These texts are specifically designed to play on your emotions. They're not random. Scammers are trying to social engineer us, to trick us, to get us to engage and answer back or click on a link. The first thing in my mind when I read, I left my shoes in your car, is that there's some poor guy standing on a street with no shoes, that you could feel sorry for that person. But the truth is, it isn't a real person sending that text. It's coming from a scam center with racks and racks of hundreds, if not thousands of phones, all running automated scripts fueled by AI to get you to engage. They'll use emotions like urgency, like the fake fraud text alert, or an alert that a large charge has been made to your account. And so you feel like you have to handle it right away. Or it could be flattery, like a job offer, or fake friendship. They know we have a loneliness epidemic in our country, so they might just send you a text with a simple hello. These scammy messages can also be emails, social media posts from fake or stolen accounts, direct messages like the Facebook DMs, or phone calls. They're trying to get you to respond or click a link that could download malicious software to your device, or they try to get you to visit a website where malware and infection could be downloaded to your device. So the criminal is attempting to deceive you rather than directly attacking your computer, in hopes that you'll be the one that clicks the thing that attacks your computer for them. Falling for a phishing scam can expose your personal information, such as passwords and credit cards. However, with some knowledge, you can become skillful at spotting phishing attempts and avoiding the lures that they leave for us. You can and should block and report phishing emails, sketchy texts, and suspicious phone calls, and we'll talk about how to do that. So how do you recognize what's malicious in an email? Scammers often disguise phishing emails as messages from trusted organizations or people, but there are clues you can look for. The best, before I go over that though, the best and simplest advice is to not click on a link or open an attachment or call phone numbers listed in emails or texts, even if you think you know the sender. If possible, find the information using your browser instead. This is the least complex advice and the easiest to follow. The best defense is to reduce the amount of spam and phishing coming into the inbox by marking emails as spam when you see them and reporting phishing to your email service. And most email services have these features where you can say something is spam or block it as or report it as a phishing email. Also, installing a high-quality anti-malware software on your computer or your Android phone can scan and block downloads if you accidentally click. Backing up your phone and your desktop just in case. Another is creating what I call the never list, as in the IRS will never text you. The Social Security Administration will never text you. We don't subscribe to tech support, so any emails or calls or texts from a supposed support person is a scam. The never list is really handy, and you can just keep adding to it as you think of things or events happen. Reminding your loved one not to be in a hurry. there's never a rush to respond. Stop and think about whether this is valid, and I'll talk more about that later. But looking at specifically when you do have an email in your inbox and you're wondering whether it's a phishing or not, does the email address logically match the sender's name? Does the sender's email address have a domain or slight misspellings? So the domain is that everything after the @ symbol, the part where it's something.com. In this case, the email is at me.com, which seems a little sketchy. And then it's got this XTVBYOJ, just a bunch of letters. Doesn't look real. You can sometimes check links to see if they're valid, either by hovering over your mouse over a link on the desktop or long pressing a link on the phone. But this can be a challenge for people with unsteady hands or vision challenges. And it's not always dependable either, because so many legitimate email links have tracking information that obscures the final destination. So the easiest thing to remember to do is simply not click and not download. Also looking in this case, this is an offer that seems too good to be true. So you've won a prize, but you didn't actually enter a contest. So it's a little odd there. Urgent or threatening language. Watch out for phrases like "your account will be deleted" or "act now." They are designed to make you panic. They might even say that your computer has been hacked or that you're under arrest, and these are scams. Requests for personal information. Legitimate companies will never ask you for sensitive details like passwords over email or text. Look out for odd business requests, a sudden demand for payment or private data, an invoice you don't recognize. Take a moment and ask yourself if it looks legitimate. These strange or unexpected requests can even come from a legitimate email address if a criminal has hacked it. So if you're suspicious, contact that person some other way, like through a phone number that you already have saved in your contacts, or maybe you Google them and you find their support number or their main number and just call them that way. Don't use numbers that are listed in the email itself. If you're caught in a phishing attempt, here's how you handle it. Stay calm. Don't click on any links or download attachments. Even the unsubscribe link can be a trap. Don't reply to the email either. Don't call any phone numbers in the message. Scammers often include urgent messages with phone numbers to trick you into calling them. And report the email. Many email platforms, as I mentioned, have phishing, report phishing features, and you can make sure to show your loved one how to use this. On Gmail, for example, many emails, not all, but will have the report phishing option. If you click on the little 3 dots on the top right of an open email, it creates a drop down, and you can see there's the option to block a sender or to report a phishing email. And then, of course, just delete that email, get it out of your inbox. And finally, trust your gut, your spidey senses. Does something just not feel right about the email? Even if everything looks legit, reach out to that person in another way. If it's a message coming from your friend, but it just seems like an odd request, or it has an odd link, send your friend a text or a phone and say, "Hey, did you just send me an email?" Trust your sense that something might be wrong. So this is a simple video that you can share with your loved one, or ideally you can watch it together. And I will share the link in our follow-up email when we send it.
Follow these easy tips to avoid phishing scams. Phishing is an attempt to get you to open an email with a harmful attachment that could infect your device with malware. Phishing attempts can also be links to fake websites that are created to steal your personal information. You can protect your data by recognizing, reporting, and deleting phishing attempts. Here's how. Look for these common signs of phishing: urgent or emotionally appealing language, requests to send personal and financial information, and incorrect email addresses or links. If you suspect phishing, resist the attempt by reporting predatory accounts. Finally, make sure you delete the fishy message. Avoiding phishing is one way to secure our world. Share these tips and help a friend stay safer too.
So CISA has some nice resources. Our Secure Our World has quite a few videos like that. So what if you don't know if it's a phishing message or not? You don't need to respond to the message immediately. If you think a message could be phishing, ask a friend, a loved one, or a caretaker what they think. Getting a second opinion is really helpful for avoiding possible scams. And this is something that you can talk to about with your loved one, that, asking is okay. If you're sharing the same space, it's a little easier than if you're supporting at a distance, but you can definitely get that rhythm going where they can describe what they've received. And always the advice is just don't respond. You don't have to respond right away, or let me take a look at it when we meet next. What if you've clicked on a link in a phishing message or downloaded the attachment? So if you clicked on the link in a phishing message and it sends you to a web page asking for information, usually it's like a login page of some kind, don't type anything in, just close out the web page. If you feel like you clicked a link that maybe weird behaviors started after that, things popped up, or disconnect from the internet, or if you can't quite know how to do that, just turn your computer off. If you have an antivirus, scan that computer for possible malware. So one of the best tips I have for supporting older family members is to, if they do have a desktop computer or they're using an Android phone, is to install anti-malware on their computers. It will do an awful lot of automatic cleanup and prevention without you having to be present. And it's saves a lot of trouble. So should I report a phishing email? Yes, most email services will let you report phishing emails. And the more that you report, then the fewer that get through. You're blocking it on your own service, but you're also signaling to the email service that this looks like phishing. They'll investigate it and they may block that particular address from coming through in the future. So we're all contributing to fewer phishing emails every time we report one. The best way to avoid scams is simply not to respond. Scammers blast out seemingly random text messages, but they're doing it to millions of numbers at the same time, hoping that someone will respond, even by just saying wrong number. These criminals then strike up a conversation and use their bag of tricks to con people out of their money. But you can beat them by just ignoring them. Remember when a phone looked like this old rotary, and then if it rang, you answered it, and it's just what we did, right? If it was a wrong number, you were polite and you said, "I'm sorry, you have the wrong number," and then you hang up. Scammers understand that instinct in older adults. They know that most of us were raised to be polite, helpful, and responsive. We don't want to ignore someone. We don't want to seem rude. But today, that instinct is being used against us, used against our loved ones. Scammers' own research has told them that they can be more successful scamming people using text rather than email, and calling on the phone and getting someone to speak with them is even more effective than a text. So they're going to be persistent and try to get someone to answer the phone. And once they have you on the phone, they will work really hard to keep you talking until they trick you into getting what they want. So it is okay to not answer the phone. You're not being rude, you're being safe. A common scam now starts with what looks like a simple mistake. It's a text that says something like, "Hi, Susan," or it'll say, "Are we still meeting for dinner tonight?" And then, you feel tempted to say, "Hey, sorry, it's, as you just hit a wrong number." The problem is that the moment you reply, the scammer knows that your number belongs to a real person and that you've confirmed it's a live number. From there, they may start a friendly conversation. They might be charming, they might share photos, they might seem kind, successful, even attractive. And sometimes the conversation will go on for days, weeks, or even months. And they be the most empathetic and relatable person or friend you've ever met and ever had in your life. They may seem to really know a lot about you, You might seem to feel like you have so much in common, but this is because they've done their research on public and dark web data available about you and your family through things like social media profiles and posts that aren't private. So eventually the request comes. Maybe it's help with a sudden emergency. Maybe it's an exciting investment opportunity. Maybe it's a cryptocurrency investment. But by that point, it can feel like your loved one or is actually helping a friend. So that's why there's a very simple rule, which is simply do not respond, not even to a wrong number. You're not being rude, you're being safe. If you receive a strange or unexpected text, don't reply, block the number on your phone, report it if your phone gives you that option, and delete the message. This is something that's worth taking, half an hour when you visit your loved one. Check out the phone and see what the steps are for blocking a phone number or for blocking a message, and then showing that how to do that with your loved one. The same advice applies to suspicious direct messages on social media. If it's truly important, the real person will find another way to reach you. The mistaken text is almost always the beginning of a scam, and the safest response is just no response at all. If you're sitting in the session today and you've been scammed, you are not alone, unfortunately. You have nothing to be ashamed of. You were a victim of a sophisticated crime. And, if you've reported it, that's excellent. If you haven't reported it, that is not uncommon, whether it's to the bank or to the platform or website where it happened, or to local law enforcement. Reporting at the local level in particular can be a challenge because some regions don't have programs and training in place to handle internet fraud, but that's growing and improving. Anytime that there is a technology crime, reporting it to the FBI through the IC3 website is a really good thing to do. They may not get back to you personally, but what it does is it tracks the pattern of these attacks, and it does help them bring down gangs. Every bit of information and data we can give them helps them in their work. You can also call on local law enforcement, and should. Honestly, the more calls they get, the more incentive there is to build programs to deal with crime if they don't have one in place already. You should also report it to your bank and report it to the technology company, or if it's Facebook, if you got a DM direct message on Facebook that's kind of scammy and scary, report it and let them know. Quick reporting can sometimes mean that they're able to stop the flow of money before it leaves the country with banks, because most of these scams are from foreign countries. So what should you do if you've already started talking to a possible scammer? If you've responded to a text from a stranger, just stop. Don't send them any money for plane tickets or gifts. They might also suggest investments. That too is a scam. Isn't it rude to not reply? And don't worry if it's an innocent person who actually did, text you by accident, because they'll figure it out when they don't get a response. And then they will figure out eventually who they did mean to text and try again. So why do scammers target older adults? Well, many older people are seen as generous and trusting, but staying cautious keeps your kindness from being exploited. You also have your life savings at risk that you need to protect. So let's talk about something we all love, passwords. Or maybe we don't all love passwords, but they've been around forever, and passwords by themselves are not enough anymore. And that's because over the years, there have been so many data breaches that millions, even billions of passwords are already floating around online on the dark web. The dark web is this place on the internet that takes a special browser to access, and it's where criminals go to buy and sell passwords, among other things. Something for you to think about. Have you used a really good password in more than one place? I think we've all done that time and again, and no judgment about that, but it's a habit the scammers are counting on. So what happens is that when a website gets breached and your password is exposed, criminals don't just try it there. They use automated software to try that same password on your email, on your bank, on your shopping sites, basically everywhere. And they use automations to do this. So they're not doing it by hand, one website at a time. They're using technology. So don't think that it's a guy in a hoodie guessing. It's software testing thousands of logins per second. They know our tricks. You know, if your password is pizza123, they'll try pizza124. They know we have this bad habit of slightly changing our favorite password, and their tools will automatically test a multitude of variations. So if having one or two good passwords alone aren't enough and reusing them is risky, then what is the better approach? The single most important thing you can do is to make your passwords long, 16 characters or more, which I know this is a challenge for loved ones. That's an awful lot of things to remember and an awful lot of things to write down. And so we'll be talking a little bit about how you can manage that. But you know, your ATM PIN is 4 numbers, and we've decided that that's okay because an ATM is tied to a physical card and then it has bank protections. You have some money loss, and there's a law that says, you know, they have to give the money back. But for online accounts, a 6 or a 4 or 8 characters is just simply not long enough. You're not up against a human being trying to guess your password. You are up against a criminal, usually criminal networks, using powerful computers and powerful password cracking software. And they do it at scale. So what makes sense for a strong password? So first it's length, 16 characters or more. Length matters more than complexity. Needs to be unique. Every account needs to have its own password. Just no reuse of passwords anymore. So if one account is breached, the others stay safe. And third is some complexity and randomness. So most websites require some kind of mix of uppercase, lowercase symbols. Just a long password that is a simple mix is better than a short, complicated one, actually. So let's look at why. So I left my dog 56 exclamation point is 13 characters. And with today's technology, it's actually instantly cracked by running the software program. So compare that to this longer one, Brick, Composer, Trail, 5, 6, Title, Guitar, with the hyphens in between. That is a 41 character password, and it would take trillions of years with current technology to crack it. It also has some other things going for it, like the symbols between the words. There's number in there, there's lowercase, uppercase, and each of these makes the password more complex. So if there are millions of stolen passwords already out there, then why does length matter? You might be asking, because they're already out there. Well, it's because when criminals get the passwords, they come in the form of a hash, which are these long letters and number combinations that's below the passwords listed here. It's basically a recipe for turning the words into a code. And it can be reverse engineered, but the longer the password, the harder it is to decipher. Simple dictionary words and common phrases have already been deciphered, which is why I left my dog is not secure anymore. So now you may also start seeing something called a passkey. A passkey lets you log in using secure technology built into your device. And this might sound at first a good solution for securing accounts for your loved one, but I want to make some caution there. So one of the ways that the passkeys can work is with fingerprint or face recognition, or also just an actual little device that plugs into your computer or your phone. So you use that instead of typing a password. It is extremely secure and very convenient. Not a lot of passwords to have to remember, but there's some things to think about. If your loved one has memory or dexterity issues, certain types of passkeys can potentially lead to the permanent loss of an account because you can't get in and the vendor won't be able to help you get in either. So you need to use the passkeys with care and make sure that the vendor site or you're logging into has an alternative way of getting back into the account if that pass key is lost or fails. So if you remember when multi-factor authentication came out, where you suddenly had to have a code in your email to put in addition to your ID and your password. Back in the day, when all these vendors started adding that to their service, they didn't always give you an option for how to recover your account. And so then if you lost access to your email, or eventually added the phone, and then you lost access to your phone, you just could not get into your account anymore. That was just the end of it. And that grew into something more manageable where now you can have more than one authentication, or you can have codes that you can use as a backup. Well, we're kind of in the same place right now with passkeys. They're extremely secure, but not every vendor has everything built out. So definitely want to do your homework on that. So if every password is supposed to be unique, long, and complex, then how do you remember them all? Using a notebook, either or a note on your phone or a spreadsheet are not particularly great habits. They're easily looked at, you can lose them or someone can grab it from your computer if it's sitting on your computer. And this is because basically they don't have security, they're not encrypted. You might reuse a password or make minor changes that a hacker could figure out. And if you lose it, you lose all your passwords. So the best way of protecting a lot of passwords is by putting them in a password manager. This is software that you can download and just put all of your passwords in. This is a nice way to manage your passwords for your loved one. Some of these services will let you sync to multiple devices and you would have access, so you could do this at a distance. Depending on your loved one's abilities, they may use a password manager, or you may just use it as a way to manage their passwords, so to speak. There are password managers that have extensions, so you can install an extension into a browser and it will automatically fill in the passwords. It's not always consistent from site to site, and this can confuse an older person. You have to kind of balance that with the benefits of a notebook. One of the things the National Cybersecurity Alliance recommends is that, if you are using a notebook, consider it treat it like cash, which is, I think, a good way to describe the risk there to a loved one. And that's really, I would say, the main message is that you kind of have to think about your loved one's abilities. So depending on where they are this year, a password manager with an extension might work great. But maybe next year they might have some changes in ability and a notebook might make more sense. If that's the case, it needs to be locked up in a drawer. Make sure that it isn't being carried around in a purse or a bag, for example. One of the things you can do if you want to learn more about password managers is you can go to Consumer Reports. PC Mag has some great articles, and Tom's Guide as well. And just take a look at they have free trials. You can try them out on your own computer. What's really nice is that most of the major ones have apps that go on your phone as well, and you can sync it to multiple computers and phones, and it is a pretty nice service. It also does things like it shows you when you've reused a password. It can show you when a password that you're using has been compromised and has already been decoded by criminals. And one of the nicest features about it is that once you put all your passwords in, then you only have to remember one. It's just your master password, which is very, very convenient. And password managers give you the ability to safely share your passwords with loved ones at a distance. So you're not necessarily sending through an email or sending them through text. You can just put it in there, sync it to their device, and they have access to it. It can be kind of a heavy lift if you have a lot of passwords and you have to put them all in. Blocking out a couple hours of time to do that, maybe longer. I know that when I put mine, I think I had like 180 passwords, which sounds crazy, but it did take me all day to do, to be honest. So a question that people ask often about password managers is, what if it gets hacked? So password managers are the safest way to store your passwords, even with this risk. It's because they use encryption to scramble your passwords, which is different than a hash. Encryption is extremely difficult to break. It's not a recipe that everybody knows. The only way to unscramble your password in this case is with their master password when you log in. Otherwise, access is just completely pointless for the criminal. The company that has your that does the owns the password manager that creates it, they can't even get in to help unencrypt. The leading password managers use strong encryption, and they can offer you multi-factor authentication if you need a second backup, if you want to have a password and an authentication to get into your password manager. There is definitely, I would say, an arms race with cyber criminals. So nothing is 100%, but it is the best place to put them right now. Multi-factor authentication, which the best way to describe this, I think, to an older person is that 2 locks are better than 1. I think this is a good thing to remember for everyone. It does feel like this necessary step that slows you down. The password being the first lock and MFA being the second lock is what prevents people from breaking into your accounts if they have managed to capture a password from a breach. And these are things that happen without any fault of our own. We put our data into one of these online cloud accounts, and then they get a breach, and then, there you go. The way multi-factor authentication works is that you type in your password, then it asks for something else. Maybe it sends a code to your phone or text. Maybe you get a notification to approve. There's actually apps you can put on your phone, or maybe it's a Face ID or fingerprint. Again, I want to just bring up the using facial recognition or fingerprints for authentication for older people. When those who have tremors in their hands or have dexterity issues, it can actually make it difficult for the facial recognition to log their face or to log their fingerprint. So definitely use some judgment there and keep tabs on their abilities, whether it's something that still works for them or not. So multi-factor authentication can be referred to by a lot of different names: 2-factor authentication, 2-step verification, one-time passcode. All means the same. Basically just gives you 2 different ways to keep your account safe. Banks and financial institutions are basically across the board requiring those, but a lot of the optional software that we use online don't necessarily require it. I think you can still get into things like Netflix without it. I'm not sure. On other accounts like social media, you may have to turn it on. Facebook is a really good example of one where you would be well served to have that enabled. I want to skip and talk about updates because that's the next piece that is really important. That if your software on your desktop and your phone is up to date, that is less risky. Every time there's an update, it's usually to prevent criminals from getting into a phone using the whatever vulnerability that's been discovered, and so they update it to prevent that. When you get those alerts on your phone, they're kind of annoying, but they're there to protect you. So if you think of your device as a garden, the company that made your phone or your computer are constantly pulling weeds, fixing broken sprinkler heads, trimming branches. Updates are basically the equivalent of maintenance. Or think of it like changing oil in your car. It's not exciting and it's an inconvenience, but skipping it causes bigger problems later. Most updates include things called security patches. Those are fixes for a weakness that criminals have figured out how to exploit. And once the company discovers the weakness, they send out an update to close the hole. If you ignore the update, the hole stays open. This is one of the best things that you can do for your loved one, is to check their phone on a regular basis to make sure that they have allowed the update. You can change the setting on both the desktop in both Windows and Mac and iPhone and Android to automatically update. And you can have peace of mind that at least is happening on its own. The next thing is to back up data. Both Android and iPhone have options for backing your data up in the cloud, or you can also plug them straight into the computer and just back them up to your computer. And then also you can back up your computer to like an external drive, little about like this, and costs 60, $80, and you can back up the information on the computer. And that is so that something goes wrong, like a broken device, lost phone, ransomware attack, you can restore your device and your data. So an upgrade usually means paying for a new version. So I just want to say that maybe not necessarily right away, but unless you're using software that no longer is supported by the manufacturer, most updates are actually that's for security fixes. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to trigger a cost or a charge. So updates are your best friend when you're using your computer and your phone. So why are they called operating systems? Because it sounds quite technical, but it's simply the thing that makes the device usable. Your operating system is like the manager of your device. So in a busy office without a manager, everyone would be running around not knowing what to do, but the operating system makes sure that all the parts of your device, like your screen, your keyboard, your apps, and your memory all work together easily. Whether your device uses Windows, Mac, iPhone, or Android, the operating system is the behind-the-scenes boss that makes everything function. So when you update your operating system, you're updating the manager, and you're making sure it has the latest instructions and security protections. If the manager is outdated, the whole office runs less efficiently, less safely. I think that using metaphors like that when you're talking to loved ones can be helpful, where you're not really talking about the technical aspects. You're just trying to give a very big picture reason why an update is important, or why password manager is important, or so on. So how do you check for updates? iPhone and Android and Mac and Windows have settings area where it'll show that there's an update. Sometimes they will pop up on the screen with a notice if you've had notifications enabled, but you can Google your particular type of phone, and it's very easy to find online the steps for how to update, and to walk through that with your loved one is really useful. There's some other things that I just wanted to mention here real quick is call blocking. And that actually is an article that I will include when I send out the email. And I will send out links for information on how to update your operating systems too. But uh, there are call blocking services. There is call blocking devices that basically just keeps the spam calls from coming through. You can set on iPhone and Android both to simply not forward to the inbox text messages from unknown texters, so that your loved one just never sees it. Same thing with phone calls. If they're not on the call list, they just don't come through. It's the easiest way, if depending on the situation with your loved one. It can be a challenge if they're working, if they're heavy involved with church and volunteers, they might get texts or messages from people that they don't know yet, but that they do need to talk to. So you just have to use your judgment about the situation. Same with banking, that it's possible to create notifications either online, or you can go to your bank and ask to be notified whether a certain amount of money gets moved around, or kind of a suspicious activity. Freezing credit is also a really good idea. In fact, everyone should just have their credit frozen by default unless they're actively using it. That way, if credit card numbers or social security numbers are stolen, it reduces the criminal's ability to use that to establish an account or in your loved one's name. So some additional resources here. First, the National Cybersecurity Alliance, which is organization that created this presentation today. They have just hundreds of free articles and tip sheets and webinars and videos and all kinds of stuff. Very similar to like what we covered today. If you forget something, it's a great place to go refresh your memory. These are folks that created the workbook, which I'll show you, that you can order for your loved one as well. I also just want to mention sextortion. This is It's where criminals threaten to release private or graphic images unless they're paid. Teenage boys are a very common victim, and if there are grandchildren or young people in your loved one's life, this is an important topic to understand. It may be uncomfortable to bring up, but just to be aware they can possibly be a victim of this. Grandchildren may find it actually easier to talk to a grandparent than to tell their parents that something is happening like this. It is responsible for a lot of teenage suicides, mainly of teenage boys, when they are extorted. So it's a very serious crime, and it's a good thing to be aware of. If you ever need to report a crime, remember that you can report it at the FBI ic3.gov. There's also, I don't like this phrase pig butchering, and I really wish that we could think of a different phrase for it, but it's a Chinese translation, which basically means that you're fattening somebody up, for the kill. And what that means is basically a long-term scam where they're building a relationship, whether it's a romance scam or a friend scam or some type of business scam, where over a period of weeks or months, they build trust and then they will steal money. The TIAA report as well, safeguarding requirement scams, and I will send all this out in the email as well. This is the website for the Then and Now campaign through the National Cybersecurity Alliance. And you can go there and you can order a workbook for loved one if you're interested. I started supporting my mother with technology a few years ago and have learned to adjust my approaches as time has gone on. And I think that's part of supporting older family members is that, year one is they need a certain amount of help, and then year five, it's a different kind of help. Hopefully you're learning along the way. I think that the most useful thing that I have put in place is the antivirus software. The new stuff is really nice. We use a program called Bitdefender, but there's a lot of them out there. But Bitdefender just automatically refreshes itself every day that it's online. It automatically blocks it. And then I also have a dashboard on my phone, and I can actually see the state of her device, which is really nice. I can see if it's been updated. I can see if there's been any problems. It'll show me how many things were blocked. And if I see a lot of blocks, I can kind of see where that might have come from. And then I can be like, hey, so where have you been surfing? Oh, that's not a really good site to be on, Oh, you should look for this. Because ads can, you're surfing on Facebook, and those ads that come up, some of them are malicious, and they will launch all kinds of things into your device or your computer. And just keeping that dialogue open is really important. It helps to build trust. I think that people who are supporting their loved ones from a distance have a bigger challenge. And if they don't have a close relationship with the people that they're supporting, it can also be difficult. So starting early, if you can, to build that relationship for the time when you may need to take over a lot more control over their technology as the years go on. Well, if there isn't any more questions, then I'm going to call this presentation completed. And I am happy that you could join me today. So thank you so much for joining me, and have a good rest of your day.